championship last year. The Florida native has made the trip. He's in Chicago. He's 9-2. He's well in top 8 contention, as is Andy Ferguson, who is playing Green-White Company. We'll be underway here shortly.
Now, for a green-white deck, Andy still has some interaction for this matchup. He has 4 copies of Dromoka's Command and 2 copies of Valorous Stance.
And Elvish Mystic is where Ferguson will start. Favorite hoplite here for Mize. Haven't seen much Collected Company. You know, one of the things that hasn't really been talked about very much, Collected Company was really the new hotness for a while once it came out. But you know, I don't think many people have talked about how much that card can be affected by what's happened in Magic Origins. A lot of people look at Liliana as a card that can go in a Collected Company deck, but not much conversation outside of that.
Yeah, what Andy here is doing is just playing with a lot of good 3-mana spells, and Collected Company is a fine value play for him. He has Nissa, Courser, Bramaz, Boon Satyr, Death Mist Raptor, and then Death Protector, Fleecemane Lion, Ward of the First Tree, Elvish Mystic, some secondary hits, but he's not doing anything fancy here.
Well, there's a block, there's a Defiant Strike. Going to try to beat Death Mist Raptor in combat. Here's Dromoka's Command.
That's game.
That's all.
Andy.
Just the unbiased reporting of Patrick Sullivan here. There's a Ward of the First
Good follow-up. Yeah, not a bad turn.
Not a bad turn at all for Andy Ferguson. Andy. Here is a Laguna Van Trailblazer looking to play a little defense.
Mm-hmm. But only a little.
Not a lot, just a touch.
Just a touch.
Let's see what's next, excuse me, for Andy. Pretty simple, straightforward attack here. Pretty easy block there for Logan. Not blocking the Death Mist Raptor.
Very wise. Although I like Andy attacking with the Warden. Andy has a very good sense of free attacks. I've noticed this a lot. There's no harm in making the attack there. Logan may not block out of respect for some sort of trick. And if, you know, nothing happens, then nothing happens.
Oh, Logan is having mana issues. We've seen this with Heroic before, too. Here's Collected Company. At least one Fleecemane Lion in there. Another Death Mist Raptor. Den Protecta. And it'll be Fleecemane and Death Mist.
Good squad.
And add to the board. Ferguson will untap. Much better board than Mize right now. He'll take a draw. It's beat down a clock. There's your block. And here's God's Willing.
An effort to get Andy to at least commit some mana to saving his Warden.
Which he's more than happy to do. Plenty of extra mana around, it appears.
It's at the expense of going monstrous with Fleecemane Lion this turn, which, you know, not a big deal, but it's at least something. And Logan's got to cast his God's Willing regardless. It's just cycle.
Top card going to go to the bottom. A couple more creatures, and Logan's going to draw his last card of this particular game, I feel. Let's see, he has some sort of wrath effect I've never seen before. Yeah, he's all done here. Andy Ferguson's going to win game number 1 here over Logan Mize. Green-White Company does win game number 1 here over White-Blue Heroic.
Sometimes you get one on the house.
You do. You do.
Logan there trying to trap with a Defiant Strike there instead of cycling on his own turn, looking for land drops, which I think is worth the risk in that spot. But Andy with Dromoka's Command blew the whole thing up, and very hard for Logan to recover there, especially not drawing a second land.
Sideboard time. We will start with Logan Mize and his 2 Monastery Mentors, 2 Seeker of the Ways, and a Johnny's Presence, 2 Treasure Cruise, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Stubborn Rattle, 2 Stratus Walk, a Triton Tactics, that's a mouthful, and another copy of Laguna Band Trailblazer.
So I'm definitely interested in the Stratus Walks in this matchup. Andy's deck looks like it's very good at blocking on the ground, not necessarily equipped to handle flyers. beyond that, I could see Monastery, Mentor, Seeker of the Way, Ajani's Presence, those kind of cards coming in. If any has removal, it's going to be in the destroy mode. So Ajani's Presence should be pretty solid. And he's not that good at removing creatures, so threats like Seeker of the Way, Monastery Mentor should be pretty powerful here.
What do we see on the other side for your boy?
2 copies of Glare of Heresy, 2 copies of Windstorm, 2 Guy's Revenge, 2 Hush Windgriff, 1 Valorous Dance, 3 Hornet Nest, 3 Irrational Clerics. The extra 2 copies of Glare of Heresy, an extra copy of Valorous Dance, and 3 copies of Hornet Nest. Just a little bit more removal and a little bit more effective blocking.
What do we like in this matchup?
I like Logan's side of it. I typically like Heroic in matchups where you're not playing against that much removal and most of your opponent's defense is blocking, because cards like, you know, Stratus Walk, Aqueous Form, they're challenging cards for decks like Green-White to beat. That said, if you don't draw a second land and your only threat gets Dramoka's Command in response to a Defiant Strike, pretty solid matchup for Green-White.
Pretty good then.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the SCG newsletter very quickly before game number 2. It's your source for Magic Gathering news, and it's been revamped just for you.
Curated by the man next to me, Cedric Phillips. You get to see the latest of what's going on with the Open Series with a selected match of the week, exclusive deck lists and advice from several premium columnists, and a free cardboard crack comic as well. All of this is free, and you can sign up right now at starcgames.com/newsletter.
You used the F word again.
Free.
Yep. Just throwing it out there.
Yep. The only opportunity cost is your time, which has no value because you're on the internet already.
You're just on there on Facebook.
Yeah, you're already just looking at whatever it is you're looking at. So instead of doing that, take 2 seconds, head over to starcgames.com/newsletter and sign up. This comes once a week. Good summary of what's going on with the website, with the Open Series. A lot of good content there.
Boom. There
Boom.
you go.
Free.
It's a good sell. You're not doing anything anyway. Who are we kidding? Who are we kidding? What are you on, Pinterest?
Right.
Was it Pinterest?
Pinterest.
Pinterest. Just looking at cats.
And cats.
Looking to post something funny on your Instagram. Take the 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's not as funny as you think it is. You know? It just isn't.
Logan Mize, Andy Ferguson. That's our match right now. Mize unable to find lands in the last game. We'll see if he can do that this game. Again, number 11 on our Season 3 leaderboard, a player that we did see at our Players' Championship last year. You might see him again this year. Could be one of those players that does get one of those overall bids at the end of the year.
It's going to be a lot harder this year, though.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at 5 invites at large, left, or excuse me, 7 instead of the 8. And 2 of those, I think, are going to be being swallowed up by those 2 Minneapolis kids who are doing a lot of grinding. So I think we're looking at 5 slots in practice, and it's going to take a lot of work.
And he is 25 years old, from Orlando, Florida, made the trip up here to Chicago, won Invitational Top 8. We saw that at Season 2 last year. Of course, that Invitational won by Tom Ross. He also has 4 Open Series Top 8s. Psychology student at University of South Florida. He's a sports guy, too. Like a lot of our players, the Jessup brothers. A lot of players that, used to play sports but have switched over to Magic.
I think that's more common than people think. The common driver in all of this is being competitive about things. And so sports can get that going, and so can Magic. And for me, for example, I was a mediocre athlete who was, slightly north of mediocre at Magic. And so I started focusing more on Magic. And I think that a lot of people have a similar story.
And some people believe that our infographics here, it's 2 truths and a lie. Mm-hmm. These are all truths. I asked Logan about this penguin thing. Mm-hmm. It's actually very true. He knows just about everything there is to know about penguins.
They are charming animals.
They are.
I mean, if you're going to pick one to know about, the penguin is a fine selection.
I'm a penguin guy. I'm a fan. I like our jetpack penguin quite a bit, too. So it all works for me. But that is Logan Mize, though he is unfortunately down a game right now.
Yes.
Having some issues. Take a look at his opening hand here, as will Andy Ferguson. It's a Eclectic Company deck that Andy's playing. Super straightforward.
Yeah, there's not a lot of fanciness here. It's got a little bit of oddness insofar as it's a beatdown deck with some control-ish cards here, 2 copies of Corsair Crewfix and 1 copy of Nissa, but not a lot of fuss, not a lot of muss here. Just a curve of good stuff.
Mize going to start things off with the Temple of Enlightenment. Top card going to go to the bottom. Ferguson will take a draw step. He'll play an Elvish Mystic.
And what I really like about Andy's list compared to something like Abzan Aggro, because his mana is so smooth, he's 2 colors, his lands come to play untapped, he's a lot better at leveraging Dromoka's command than a lot of other decks because he's just going to be playing big stuff on time, and that's going to put him ahead on the board in spots where his opponent's reacting, and then Dromoka's command gets to be very, very powerful.
There's a Battle-Wise Hoplite. A basic Plains. See what's next here for Andy. He'll play a Fleecebane Lion with a green mana available past the turn. To Mize we go. See if he can grow this Battle-Wise Hoplite. It's weird. Battle-Wise Hoplite is a card that some people have really moved away from in Heroic decks, especially in Ban Heroic. Logan playing 4 in this version.
Another subtle thing that I want to bring up here right now, a lot of people just will tap the plains and the forest there to cast the Fleecebane Lion. When someone taps a mana creature like that, they're sort of saying, leaving up the green mana is so valuable that I'm going to tap my Elvish Mystic to make sure my forest remains untapped. And that's a much louder declaration of having a trick available than if he just tapped the plains and the forest. What trick does he have available, do you ask? Nothing. But it's just something for Logan to think about.
Yep.
He's making it seem like he has something to do for a green mana.
It might seem like a minor thing.
But all this stuff adds up. And you saw with the attack with the Warden in game 1. I mean, Andy's very conscious of throwing out little signals to his opponent throughout the entire game. And those little moments add up, especially when you start playing against people who are good, who are perceptive of these sort of things. Logan probably right now is thinking about, maybe Gather Courage, maybe some 1 green disenchant effect in the format, who knows? Yep. But it's on his radar right now.
Here comes Battle-Wise Hoplite with an Ordeal. It is a 4/4 attacker right now. So Ferguson down to 16. And he'll take a draw step. Time for the beatdowns. Mize gonna go down to 15. Uh-oh. There's a...
It's a humdinger.
There's a tough
Slow
card.
down.
Yeah. Better find one of those Aqueous form. Now, Logan is one of the people who has been playing a lot of copies of Aqueous form in his Heroic list for some time now. He has 4 main deck copies.
On top of 2 copies of Stratus Walk in the sideboard, which I am willing to bet have come in for the matchup.
Yes. So even though Hornet Nest is quite the roadblock, Logan has always been someone who's been prepared appropriately for that card. You see him sacrifice a Flooded Strand here. Look at a basic island.
And I like the smoothness of Logan's deck, too. He's not messing around with Dromoka's command, even though that card's very powerful. He just prioritizes having lands that come into play untapped and always having the right color of mana available to him.
Yep.
Because this is not a deck that stumbles well. Once you get behind, it's very hard to catch up.
Yeah, it's really tough. There's our deal of Fasa. Time to scry. Mize giving this one quite a thought what he wants to do with this card. Must be a gooder. That card gonna go to the bottom. Let's see what's next here for Logan. I mean, it leads me to believe, he does not have any way to get through because he's taking quite a long time on this turn.
Yeah, and even drawing 2 cards and, gaining 10 life, that's not worth breaking a nest, especially if one is for that much. So he's got to hang back here. He's got a lot of draws, something like Aqueous Form, Stratus Walk. Even something like God's Willing, he can set to green, attack, draw a bunch of cards, and hopefully find a workaround to the nest the following turn. But he's got to hang back for the time being.
Just you could tell with how much he was thinking about what to do there. There's Bramaz. Another Elvish Mystic. So Andy just building up a board here. No real good attacks for him, however.
But you can see how vulnerable Andy's deck is to the unblockable effects.
Oh, for sure.
His whole plan here is to play defense, and besides a few removal spells he's bringing out of the sideboard, his sideboard is about more blocking. He's bringing in Hornet Nest as well.
If Aqua's form shows up, this is horrible news. Top card going to go to the bottom. Johnny's Presence was cast. Logan just wants to do some scrying.
He's being very aggressive right now, which I like, because he knows he does not have all day, and he's got Valorous Stance. He's probably got other removal spells in his sideboard. And if he sits here waiting for too long, once Andy draws a removal spell, if Logan's not equipped with an answer, he's done.
Yep.
The game's over. So I like trying very hard to find Aqua's form, Stratus Walk, and I think even God's Willing would be suitable for Logan in this spot.
Let's see what's next here for Mr. Mize. Both players just kind of playing a weird waiting game at this point. Another ordeal of Heliod. Jeez. Yeah, we'll require one more mana. Not a hero of Iros out there. Take a look at the top card. If he ever leaves on top, I'm horrified. Okay.
Yep.
I am truly terrified.
Yep. Especially a lot of his draws, he can actually attack. If it's God's Willing, for example, he can attack right now, gain 20, draw 2, and move in. But it's very dangerous if Logan ever leads on top, because most of his draws are nonsense, but his good draws break the game wide open. Yep. So he's not. There's no cards of medium value he's leaving on top of his deck right now.
He's looking for something specific. And I think he may have found what he was looking for, given that he left it on top. I mean, we might even see this too, yeah, because what's going to happen now is, he's going to get a counter, crack that gain 10, get a counter, crack that gain 10, get a counter, draw 2 cards, and then it might just be a God's Willing.
Yeah.
And just say, you don't get to block.
He sets it to green. Bermaz gets a chump block, but that's not too bad.
Yep.
The thing is, this is nice for one turn, but Logan's kind of jammed up the same way going forward. He's still in a spot where he needs to find God's Willing or some unblockable effect to be able to continue to attack, because the Hornet Nest is going to be hanging out, waiting next turn.
It's not going anywhere. But getting that much life, getting 2 cards, getting a little deeper into your deck, all these scries, just going to get him a little bit closer to Aqua's form, you have to imagine.
And Logan knows what's up right now, too. He doesn't have all the time in the world to find the card he's looking for. So he's trying to do this in part because every time he plays a spell on the hoplite, he's scrying. And that's finding him, that's getting him closer potentially to finding Aqua's form, Stratus Walker, whatever else.
Bermaz is going to predictably chump block here. The token will leave as well. There's favorite hoplite with 1 mana left over. Representing a Johnny's Presence, Ferguson will draw. So we'll see what's next here for Andy. He still has some pretty good defense set up. He can start attacking.
Yeah, Fleece Mane Lion at the minimum. It's good to go. But right now, Andy really on the hunt for Glare of Heresy. As far as he knows, Valorous Stance, though I believe Logan has an answer for that.
Yeah, Johnny's Presence in hand right now. Here comes Fleece Mane Lion. Logan gonna take that because, well, I'm at 34.
Got a little bit of cushion right now. Probably a little early to chump block.
Yeah. Might be a little hasty. Fourth land there for Andy was a Windswept Heath. Now he'll play a Morph. Den Protector or Death Misraptor here. Logan will have to guess which one.
And a Morph here can do some work for Andy because it means that God's Willing set to green still allows him to chump block.
Oh, there's Ordeal again. Just can't find one of the big 6. 4 Aqua's form, 2 Stratus Dancer.
And you might be asking, well, why not just put that on the hoplite and get in a position where you can start attacking a little bit, because that's not Logan's game plan at all. He's trying to make something as large as possible. Because it's Battle-Wise Hoplite, he's scrying as he goes, and he's just trying to find some effect that makes his creature unblockable.
I also think he's in a kind of a roundabout way, he's trying to one-shot him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's nice about this game plan is if he fails to find what he's looking for, well, then he just hangs back and blocks. And he's got 31 life to play with as well.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of time to find it, assuming that Andy doesn't find something like Valorous Answer, Glare of Heresy to knock his creature off the table.
31 life somehow is, 5, 6, 7 draw steps.
Yeah.
It can be a lot of draw steps here.
Well, right now it's infinite draw steps because Andy can't attack at all.
Yeah. There's a forest. And a flea spin line. For Logan, you got to be feeling pretty comfortable. There's not really a lot of cards you have to worry about from Andy's side of the table. So inevitability is certainly on his side. Yeah. I'll draw what I'm looking for eventually. I certainly want to play it safe because Dromoka's Command is something I have to worry about. But also, he has an enchantment to sacrifice on the table in Ordeal of Thassa.
Well, the problem is if Dromoka's Command is still a concern, because if Logan goes into combat and attacks, he's going to lose that Ordeal. And then if he's on Stratus Walk or something like Aqueous Form, then that gets sacrificed. And now the Hornet's Nest is online.
Sure, that's very true, very true.
So, if he's worried about Dromoka's Command, ideally he has additional padding. He finds another enchantment that he can sacrifice to Dromoka's Command to leave the unblockable enchantment ready to go.
That's true. He's gonna need more than the Ordeal.
And it is scary because Andy has had no incentive to play Dromoka's Command for several turns now.
Yeah.
So it could just be hanging out in his hand, waiting for a better spot.
And he's gonna sacrifice his Windswept Teeth. Forester Plains on the way. Go down to 15 in the process.
And the thing is, Logan can't screw it up because if he attacks with that Hoplite and the Hornet Nest gets to block, I know he's at 31, but it's gonna. There's a lot of Hornets coming.
It's bad news.
Yeah.
If that goes poorly, to say the least.
So now Andy's in a spot with the second Fleecebane Lion, where he can go monsters with both and start getting in a little bit of damage. It's not a lot, and I feel like the game is still going to be determined by who draws the significant card first, but at least he gets a little bit of pressure going.
Fleecebane Lions are monstrous. Yep, coming in. This is a way for him to start at least chipping away.
Yep.
And just hide behind that Hornet's Nest. Ferguson will pass the turn back. Mize will draw a card. And Stratus Walk. Aqueous Form. Those are the big ones here for Mize.
And I love Andy making no move with that morph because it protects him from God's Willing on green.
I was actually just doing a little math to see if God's Willing would get the job done. Can make this attack again, yeah. Logan says, yeah, I'll block with my Battle-Wise Hoplite again. Andy will play a Manic Influence. Okay. I don't know if that changes too much.
Yeah, Logan can't attack into the first one, so the second one doesn't add a whole lot.
It's something to pick up on, however, if you are Logan. That, okay, he's got multiple Hornet's Nest after sideboard.
Yeah.
Also, a little piece of information in case there is a third game.
It's really significant, too, because Andy's got Collected Company in the deck, too.
Yeah.
So knowing that when he has 4 mana up, that's a strong possibility of Collected Company in a Hornet Nest. Good information to have.
Another Ordeal. Another counter. Important to scry.
So this is a spot where I think I would have preferred Logan putting the Ordeal, this Ordeal on the Hoplite.
Okay.
Because his way to win the game in this spot is with an enchantment that makes his creature unblockable. He is really exposed to Dromoka's Command. And if he attacks with his hoplite, those enchantments fall off, the Battle-Wise hoplite. So if you move the Ordeal onto the favorite hoplite, then if you're worried about Dromoka's command, you get to put the unblockable enchantment on the Battle-Wise hoplite, attack, and then you have the Ordeal of Heliod hanging out on the other hoplite, which you can then sacrifice to a Dromoka's command.
Yeah, it's a weird, complicated play, but I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah, he needs a little bit of padding against Dromoka's command in this spot. Now, maybe he's not playing around at all. Maybe he's trying to win in one hit and he wants to pump the hoplite. There's other considerations. But if Dromoka's command is the card he's worried about, he's better served putting the Ordeal of Heliod on the favorite hoplite and insulating himself from the edict of Dromoka's command.
See what Mize draws this turn.
Because right now he's in a spot where he has to put an enchantment on Battle-Wise hoplite and let it rip.
Yep.
That's where he's at. And if Andy has Dromoka's command, the attack fails, a Hornet Nest gets the block, and it's very hard to recover from there.
There will be a couple Hornets left over.
Yes, there would be, I'm counting 11, 13, 14, 15 at the minimum.
A smidge.
That's enough to kill Logan on the way back.
Logan has not been able to find one of those enchantments yet.
And now the life total is starting to matter a little bit. I mean, he's down to 19. You know, he can check one of these Fleece main lines, but not both of them.
It is starting to become a little scary.
You know, Logan's starting to probably feel like he does not have as all the time in the world anymore.
Yep.
When he was at 30-something, he felt like he had a lot of draw steps, but he's missed for long enough now.
Top card going to go to the bottom from the Scry of Temple of Plenty. The other thing, too, is Andy has just been holding on to that one card forever.
I know what it is. Do you know what it is?
I'm going to guess it's Dromoka's commands.
Boon Satyr.
Is it actually?
Yeah, it's a Boon Satyr.
Okay.
Not very good, but could punk Logan out.
Yeah. Going back Ferguson's way. Do it again.
Another Fleece main line is not a bad draw here. Not as good as Dromoka's command or Valorous Dance or Glare, but that clock is really speeding up now. And Andy's showing a lot of discipline here. Still has not made a move with that morph. Don't know what it is, but he values having a colorless blocker available, so God's willing can't kill him.
Cluttered board. Another Fleece main line, like another attacker.
And we're reaching the point here where if Logan's not careful, this Boon Seer is going to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it could be this combat if he only blocks Fleece.
Depending on how he blocks,
if he just makes the blocks he's been making the previous turn, you know, if there's no chump block this turn, he's going to die.
Here they come.
It's not that hard for Logan to chump block in the spot because his extra creatures are worth very little, but if he doesn't, he's dead.
Yeah, he can sense it a little bit, you can tell.
Well, we're reaching the point where, you know, if he says no blocks, he's falling to 3 on board. All sorts of tricks start coming into play here. And again, his extra creatures don't have a whole lot of value in this spot.
He'll take 3. He's going to go down to 8. Lose a hero by Rose. Pass it. Take a draw. He's going to slow roll himself a little. Aha! Stratus Walk. Finally, trigger.
Huzzah.
Took a minute.
Yep. Logan worked real hard to get to this point, that's for sure.
Yep. Counter, scry. Stratus Walker resolve. That means Logan draws a card. So now, what would happen here again, if Andy had Dromoka's command, what could happen is that Logan would attack, he'd get triggers from his ordeals.
Yes.
He'd sacrifice one, draw 2 cards, sacrifice the other, gain 10 life, and then Stratus Walker would be the only enchantment on the battlefield for Mize. And then Dromoka's command would cause him to sacrifice it, and then Hornet Nest could block.
Right. And I think Logan may be digging right now for another enchantment just to throw on something so he has protection against that scenario.
There's an Aqueous Form, so that probably does it for sure now. Yep.
Yeah, now he's good to go.
Super safe. Rawr.
Some assembly required.
A little bit. Logan Mize is going to win game number 2 here over Andy Ferguson. White Blue Heroic and Green White Collected Company, they're going to get ready for game number 3. A strange game, too.
Looked like a top deck on the last turn, and I suppose technically it was, but Logan had a lot of cards to get that scenario to come up, and he did quite a bit of scrying to get there.
Yep. He used his effects aggressively to try to get to Aqueous Form and or Stratus Walk. Finally found one and got the job done, so that's why we're all even up here. Interesting game.
Yeah, that one was bizarre.
But good enough to get the job done. So we'll get ready here for game number 3. And in the meantime, we will talk about Patrick Chapin's next level library. He has somehow found some time in between, you know, being a 2-time world runner-up and winning a pro tour to pen 2 large books.
Game design, music career, whatever other ancillary action he's got going on the side. 2 books, Next Level Magic, Next Level Deck Building, Next Level Magic with a focus on playing the game better, Next Level Deck Building, as you would imagine, focus on deck building for players of all ability levels, from people who have just started playing Magic to grinders trying to get to the next level in your PTQs and Grand Prix. Available on paperback and on ebook right now at StarCityGames.com/nextlevel.
Game number 3 going to be underway here in just a moment between Logan Mize and Andy Ferguson. Both these players 9-2, well within top 8 contention. Been a little bit since we've seen Logan Mize, but again, he did play in the Players' Championship last year, and we'll see how things go if he can get back there again this year.
I love all the travel that's occurred for this tournament. You know, it's week 1. People are testing for the Pro Tour. They're excited about Magic Origins, and people have come a long way to play in this event. We have 762 players. And I love the idea of Logan Mize going, I've got a sweet deck too. No new cards. There's no new cards in it, but it's sweet. I'm also going to make the trek up to Chicago.
I do enjoy the no new cards approach. Look at you guys with your chases and your Chandras and all your new stuff. I don't need new stuff. I'll play another Aqueous Form, I guess. I'll give Triton Tactics a try. I don't need any new cards. We'll see what Andy Ferguson can do on the play here. I do agree with you. Even though he did win game number 1, he's on the player for game number 3. I think it's a tough matchup for him.
Yep.
Now,
he's just not heavy on relevant interaction.
This is one thing that can happen quite a bit for Logan, however. His deck, it doesn't mulligan great.
No, it's not great. And it definitely magnifies the significance of Andy's sideboard cards. Part of the problem with Andy's position in the matchup, and you saw it a little bit in game 2, is Hornet Nest is one of his better cards in the matchup. Logan can't really attack through it. But the problem is that when Andy plays a Hornet Nest, Logan can easily go, okay, I'll play defense because I have some large creature you can't attack through, and I'll wait for one of my enchantments that make my creature unblockable to roll in. You kind of want something like Hornet Nest alongside attacking in the air. So then you're invalidating their creature on offense on defense. With Hornet Nest, obviously the creature can't attack effectively, but it's still a very good blocker. And in that game, it gave Logan a lot of time.
That's an Elvish Mystic. A great start here for Ferguson. He'll search up a basic forest, and we are underway here in game number 3. Mize will draw. Found 6 cards that he can keep. Maybe this heroic deck could really benefit from that new mulligan rule.
I'm sure it wouldn't hurt. A deck that mulligans a lot and needs to have the right mixture of cards. Yes, I'm sure it's definitely in the market for that.
Temple of Lightning to start things here for Mize. Ferguson going to sacrifice a Windswept Heath. Likely a Plains on the way and does play a Morph. Taylor Pratt actually wondering at home if Logan even has any cards from Dragons of Tarkir in his deck list. I don't think so.
No. The answer is no.
The past 2 sets have not existed, the Logan Mize.
Not no new cards, no newish cards.
There's a Flooded Strand. An old one.
It's been cryogenically frozen for the last 6 months, comes out, deck's still good.
Yeah. Hey guys,
missed some sets, it's fine.
House Heroic, it's still good. All right.
It's fine, you know.
All right. You get anything new? I don't know. Here's Hero by Rose. New cards are overrated. Give me that old stuff.
You can play that new enchantment that gives your creature a stat bonus, and when you attack, it taps a creature. Good against Hornet Nest.
Bang.
Bang.
Let them know. Logan, will you go back and watch this?
Yeah. Talk to him after the match.
Yeah.
Did you consider whatever that new crappy enchantment is to replace some of the old crappy enchantments in your deck?
You should ask it. You should. You should. Deathness Raptor being cast. You should ask him if he's considered that card by name, and then he'll probably ask you what's that card.
Right.
Since it's from a new set.
Now, of course, that card's just a lot worse than Aqueous Form and Stratus Walk, but still, let's get some new cards in here.
There's Stratus Walk. Here, Vero's going to go to the Skies. Logan will draw a card. Sky's a great place to be for his deck, especially the Deathness Raptor down there. There's a Plains. Follow up here, maybe a favorite Hoplite? Yes. Pass the turn back. Ferguson will untap. He's got a Morph of Deathness Raptor and Elvish Mystic, along with 3 lands out there, and Temple of Plenty, Plains, and Forest. He'll take a draw step here as his 4th turn will begin. You saw Collective Company in game number 1, but that was a one-sided affair. Logan was stuck on 1 land, didn't really do much of anything. Now there's a Windswept Heath. Attacking for 5. See if Andy has anything to do here. Does have a copy of Den Protector in hand that he could play post-combat. Logan might be considering blocking here. He does have 1 mana Tricks in God's Willing, Defiant Strike, Ajani's Presence. Might want to try to make a move, eat one of these creatures, but he'll let the damage come through. Goes down to 12, so Ferguson takes the lead on life totals. And I'm just going to pass the turn, and this feels like maybe a Collective Company is on the way.
Maybe, although I wouldn't even be that stunned if they got sided out of Andy's deck. It's a little slow for this matchup.
Okay.
Maybe Andy's deck just doesn't have enough power in it in the absence of Collective Company, and it just stays in every matchup. But if you were going to cut it, this would be the kind of matchup.
There's Mana Confluence. Here comes Hero. I'll be an attack for 3. It's 12 all now. Logan does have another copy of Favorite Hoplite. And Johnny's Presence is a card he's been a fan of for a long time. Looks like he has one of those in his hand as well.
Very good with Favorite Hoplite and friends, and does a lot of work against Deathness Raptor, which is not the easiest card for this deck to play against otherwise.
There's another Hero. Andy going to sacrifice his Windswept Heath. Down to 11. Forester Plains on the way. We'll get a Forest.
Oh, Andy, you rascal.
I know what that morph is. I think we know what that morph is. Boonsader, one of my favorite cards.
Getting a sense it's a Den Protector down there.
That's
And I think this game might have sped up a little more than Logan was anticipating.
a touch. You're getting a sense, huh?
Because this just went from, all right, I'm chipping away in the air and there's some turns here, to I'm dead in 2 turns.
Oh no, this changed in a big way.
And Logan's only hitting for 3 right now. I mean, he's not got a lot of pressure going.
Oh, we assume it's a Den Protector. Logan wants to take a look at the morph.
The problem is that this is a tough spot to bluff because you have to turn the thing face up for the text box to turn on.
It would be a little strange.
Now you look at Andy's graveyard, where there's only 3 copies of Windswept Heath, and nothing great to get back right now. And the concern might be, well, you know, can I try to finagle this in a way where I cast a spell to good effect and get that back instead? But I think if the card in hand is Valorous Stance, which I believe it is, then there's no targets in play right now. And there's no guarantee that Valorous Stance works down the line because Logan's got so many protection from effects.
Yeah. I think I kind of like this attack. It's pretty safe.
And remember that Andy is essentially representing here, you know, I've got 7 points of unblockable damage next turn because the Den Protector gets turn face up. And so Logan can't really take the hit off of the morph. Assuming that Logan believes it's Den Protector, but which I guess is not 100% the case, but seems likely to me.
Given the interaction, it would be hard to believe it's not Den Protector. Here is a Johnny's Presence on Hero of Iroh's. It's going to trigger Heroic for 1, so that we can do a 3/3, and then a Johnny's Presence will give it +1/+1 as well, so they can do a 4/4. And what's tough about this is, with the way a Johnny's Presence works, okay, resolve Heroic 3/3. Then a Johnny's Presence resolves all at once, so +1/+1 and indestructible, so you can't Valor Stance it now.
So I think the reason that Andy has gone down this path is if Logan has something to muck up the blocks, which he does, he can use the Valorous Stance to make his morph indestructible, and then he has something of value to get back with the Den Protector that we presume it is.
Sure.
Now, whether or not that's better than just saying, unmorph Den Protector, get back a Windswept Heath, whatever, hit you for 7, try to kill you next turn, I'm not sure, with Valorous Stance back up. But I think this is the line of play that Andy has selected.
He's played very cautious. There is Valor Stance. So there's a little exchange in combat. Deathmatch Raptor eats favorite Hoplite, Hero of Iroh's, and the Morph stare at each other. There's a Warden of the first tree post-combat. See the life totals here, 12-11 in favor of Mize. Mize will draw a card. Looks like it might be God's willing time. No, that's a big one. It's a copy of Ordeal of Heliod. That'll make Hero a little bit larger. Looks like both heroes are going to attack. Logan's going to get to gain 10 life. Now his hero that's flying is a 5/5, and the one on the ground is currently a 3/3. We'll see if Warden of the first tree wants to try to jump in and block here.
Well, it's very dangerous for Andy not to block here because then he's in range where the Hero of Heroes is just lethal. And if he assumes, Logan knows about the Valor stance down. So you have to assume he has some way of protecting this hero as well.
Unmorph. Big surprise that it's Den Protector. Going to get back Valor stance. I think all things that Logan has accounted for. I think Andy knows that as well. So Andy will untap.
But remember, Andy's at 6 right now, facing 5 in the air.
Yep.
So Logan can't initiate a lethal attack by saying, "Oh, God's willing my creature for +1/+1."
Yep.
Andy can Valor stance in response. So Logan needs to sit here with his protection and hopefully draw something that can trigger.
Well, he's got time.
Yeah.
22 life. Deathmish Raptor coming on in. I think Andy might need to slow down a touch. Depends on what's in his hand. Again, we know Valor stance. Collected Company, too. Interesting. So here comes the big bad Den Protector. It's a hit for 7. Ferguson will pass. One thing Logan can do here is he's got the 5-power attacker in the air. He can just say, give one of my ground pounders protection from green, try to kill you that way. This Stratus Walk is pretty good too off the top.
Yeah, now he's got 2 flyers with protection.
Yep.
And Andy needs something very specific.
Logan will get the draw from Stratus Walk. And still with God's Willing in hand here. So Mize looks to be in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean, Logan at this point has to think about things like, what if he has 2 copies of Valorous stance?
Yeah. This is where you're doing, as a player, a worst-case scenario check.
Right.
You're running through a bunch of stuff in your head.
Things look good. Logan's probably committed to a lethal attack. I mean, the Stratus Walks means he can't block, so it is what it is right now. Just a question of if he wants to do anything with the Ordeal of Heliod left over.
Yeah. And there's Valor stance. That's a God's Willing. Now we'll get a counter. He'll also get to scry. That's going to do it. Logan Mize is going to win this match here over Andy Ferguson. 2-1. White Blue Heroic will take care of Green White Collected Company. The tough part here for Andy is he doesn't have a ton of interaction. He does have Valor stance. He does have Dromoka's Command, but he's got to really draw a lot of those cards.
His game plan in the matchup involves a lot of blocking. And Aqueous Form and Stratus Walk make it very challenging because he has no flyers in his deck and not a lot of ways to kill stuff, not a lot of ways to kill enchantments outside of Dromoka's Command. And, he was able to win game 1 there